So, after such a brief reminder, let's continue. So, information support of the elements of the supersystem. Here is a little element of the supersystem drawn. In blue, and in red is drawn its information module. An egg like this. And the egg consists of two half eggs. That is, the upper part of the egg and the lower part of the egg. This is called the information module. Information support of the element's behavior. That is, self-management is organized in a two-level manner. Here is the first level, the lower part of the egg, which is identical and the same for all elements of the supersystem, meaning this lower half of the egg is the same for all elements of the supersystem. And it provides the presence of elements in the environment with a certain reserve of stability from the moment the supersystem is introduced into the environment. If this is not present, then the supersystem cannot exist in the environment and is displaced by it, meaning it is destroyed. This is the purpose of the fundamental part. That is, it is the same for everyone. Below, we will further examine this using the example of a human. And here is the upper half of the egg, the adaptive part, which means the second level. It develops in each element in an individual manner, based on the fundamental part, meaning that without the fundamental part, there can be no adaptive part. And it develops in the process of the system's functioning. And here is a picture shown. You can see the adaptive part. If the lower part of the egg is the same, you can see in the first one. How does development occur? At first, the adaptive part was small, then it became even larger. And with the development of experience, it kept growing, growing, and growing. If you remember that picture when we talked about the relationship between genetic potential and social potential, this is indeed from there. That is, the social component is currently overpowering genetics. So, this is from the same series. So what comes next? In the fundamental part, there may be a hierarchical ordering of information modules. Here in these pictures, the information modules are presented. Small ones, you see, these modules, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. This means it is necessary for providing the initial specific specialization of the elements that are part of the supersystem. So, an example of such specialization is the division of the elements of the supersystem by gender. And so here you see I drew pictures. It is shown. This arrangement of information modules materializes because if the information modules are arranged like this, here you are a man, here are your traits, right? If you are a woman, you have different informational support and you materialize in different traits. Well, I think the viewers understand me, what this expresses. That is why all these information modules are embedded in a person. And the fundamental part is the same for everyone in this sense. But the division by specialization occurs, and in particular, such specialization is implemented based on gender in order to ensure reproduction, a renewable elemental base of the supersystem, and the adaptive parts. They develop in accordance with the fundamental part. Therefore, adaptation, in particular for men and women, is also different. And you see the arrangement of elements of information modules in the adaptive part is also determined by the fundamental part. Everything I have said is reflected in the structural organization of the material carrier. That is, each of the elements of the structure. And we actually see this in life. Here among us, there are many people, and all of it is by gender. Here comes a man, and here comes a woman. And further, there are also different traits, meaning information there. There are nuances depending on the adaptive part. Well, what examples can be given here? If there were some genetic disorders, remember what we discussed, I will base this on that. Then you can see, here comes a person, a girl, beauty, a wonderful braid. So, a genetically healthy core. A man is walking, a genetically healthy core. And if there was oppression like of informational modules, cutting oneself off from God through alcohol, drugs, then what comes is weak, tormented, something else there. That is, all of this is also expressed in material carriers. If I were to explain this in a worker peasant way, in large supersystems, and we are quite a large supersystem, all of this is reflected in the statistical characteristics of the variation of element parameters and predetermined in a probabilistic sense. Thanks to what? Because a multitude of elements of the supersystem with the lower part of the egg and the upper part, that is, with the fundamental adaptive part, they are instantly irreplaceable elements, probabilistically replaceable by other elements within some probabilistically predetermined time. So this is what I just said. What is this about? Again, about the stability of the system. If the elements of the supersystem are affected by some factor, and one little element cannot determine what is falling here for me, another little element cannot either. But since there are many elements, and their life paths were different, so probabilistically predetermined from all the multitude of elements, someone will say, guys, what are you doing? An asteroid is flying towards us. It will soon smash us here, and we are sitting and doing nothing. I didn't say a fairy tale. You all have probably watched that American, well, the action movie. What's it called? Not Apocalypse, but Armageddon, where an asteroid was heading for Earth, and the Americans sent their drillers there. They landed on 2 ships, drilled a hole, placed a nuclear charge there, and the asteroid was blown apart, saving the Earth. Generally speaking, such a probability exists. And if we talk about the elements of the supersystem to reflect for such a possibility, all of humanity must act in unison. But we will also discuss this a bit later. And scientists, generally speaking, some are already expressing thoughts that the supersystem must be able to reflect all factors affecting it under any conditions. If this is not the case, the system perishes. So, in order to be able to reflect this factor, first of all, it must be recognized. And what did I just say? And what if the elements of the system do not know how to recognize this factor? So the whole concept by which we live, what is it? I know, but I won't tell you anything. Thus, it deprives. The elements of the supersystem lack the necessary knowledge so that when a certain factor arises, and it may not necessarily come from above, it can arise within the system, like some disease or something else. If no element can determine it, then we will harm ourselves. So, what concept is currently prevailing in our society? It is precisely one where the elements of the supersystem say, I know, but I won't tell you. And at the crucial moment, it may turn out that there is no element that can reflect the emerging danger. So, what is this about? That the supersystem, due to the fact that instantly irreplaceable elements can probabilistically be replaced by other similar elements over a certain period, which will allow for the stability of this system. This is normal, and so the information exchange between the elements within the supersystem and the supersystem with their series, they are subject to probabilistic predeterminations within the hierarchy of higher encompassing management. The elements of the supersystem accumulate informational differences from each other over time and can possess several specializations, meaning they are suitable for use in various specific control functions. Thanks to all this, as a result of these factors, it ultimately leads to the fact that the supersystem has memory, and consequently, and Pushkin has another good phrase, here's how well. Images are born. Everyone knows the truth. That is, one person cannot replace the truth for all humanity. But the entire super system, it really is. I know one thing, you know another, you know a third, and so on. And together, we know a certain whole. Therefore, the super system has its own certain memory, what is called collective power or collective intelligence, although we will talk about what collective intelligence is and when it can be born. It possesses flexibility of behavior. That is, the reaction of the super system itself, its fragments, its elements to the same environmental influence, is not definitively predetermined, although it is predetermined in a probabilistic sense. That is, generally speaking, the slogan is very simple. Here it is drawn. What one cannot do, we will do together. That is how we should organize the life of the super system. And since we have already talked about this, it is actually simpler. We can discuss all of this without drawings. Everything, I am telling you, ultimately conveys the meaning of this lecture and the overall goal, which is what we will achieve. We need to organize the life of the super system, that is, the life of human society, so that we work towards achieving the goal that has been set in relation to the super system, that is, to us, and who set the goal, God. Therefore, we must recognize this goal. We have already talked about it. And for this, all elements of the super system must possess certain knowledge and understanding of what is happening. We are currently being deprived of such knowledge. Next, we must, on the other hand, we, as elements of the super system, are influenced by the environment. So, we are forced to align our activities with the reflection of the environmental impact. What does this entail? We must eat, that is, we must plow the land. Obtain our daily bread, we must dress, and we must move. This must be done. Therefore, there are two tasks, not just as if, but two tasks. One task for the elements of the super system is to ensure their stable existence in the environment. And the other task is to work towards achieving the goal that has been set in relation to us. And now, if all the activities of each element of the super system and the entire super system as a whole are subordinated to what? If it is only about subordination, that is, fulfilling the tasks of maintaining existence in the environment, such as dressing and putting on shoes, as people do not need it, then we are not working towards achieving the goal set for us from above. Do you feel it? That's all. So in what system do we live? We live in just such a system. But how should it be? On the contrary, how to organize human life so that people spend the minimum necessary time on their existence in the environment, that is, on securing food and so on, and free up the maximum time. For what? To achieve the goal that has been set for us from above. That's it. Generally speaking, one could stop reading the lectures further. Everything is clear. Therefore, for example, if we talk about the totalitarian Stalin, what did he say? He said that the workday should be no more than 4 or 5 hours. And the rest of the time people should spend on self-education, raising children, and so on. And what have the Democrats led to now? For the good of man and so on, everyone works from morning till night and, so to speak, falls into stress, like in Japan and elsewhere. What is this? That is, we work on existing in the environment and do not work towards achieving a goal. And there is no talk about this. And this is considered life because Talkov sang about it. In that country where you all do not live. Why? Because this cannot be called life. This is not life, but suffering. That is, this is pure Tatanism. Well, all right, this is like a whole thing. The entire story is told for this reason. That is, we need to, I emphasize once again, organize the life of the elements of the super system, which is human society, so that all of us, existing in the environment, and we cannot cancel the environment, we need to eat, we need to dress, we need to move. But life needs to be organized in such a way that we spend as little time as possible on this, and more time on achieving the goal, for which the supersystem is organized in the first place. The pressure of the environment on the supersystem, and actually everything I told you can now be discussed in elements. Well, we are going through the elements. The pressure of the environment on the supersystem. Here is again a familiar picture. The elements of the supersystem, the environment, hierarchically leading to the highest encompassing management, God. Here are the elements. They fluctuate, so to speak. They solve problems. One with such a frequency, another. The environment acts upon them, you see. The pressing factors. This means slow processes, slow frequency. That is, the environment exerts its pressure on the supersystem. The impact of the environment, like everything in nature, has an oscillatory nature. Day, night, winter, summer, cold, hot, and so on. That is here. Rain, snow. But the frequencies of this environmental impact are quite low. Compared to the minimum frequency at which the elements of the supersystem can change their informational state, I went outside and got dressed, or an umbrella, just like that. And that's it. That is, I quickly change my state. But the factors we have are slow. Remember the law of time. Do you remember that? Slowly changing factors. And now, what has become our habitat? Not nature, but the technosphere that we created. And in this technosphere, in the pursuit of money, 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 what? Today, dyed water is in fashion. I sell red. Coca-Cola. They don't buy Coca-Cola from me, so I need to sell some kind of green water, some other cola. And in order to sell, the frequency of updating this social environment happens often. Short skirt, long, medium. A jacket with pockets, some kind of cartoon, and with a snake with a carp. Without pockets, and it started rolling. Just to sell, just to sell. The grinding of products is happening, that's all. That is, we created such an environment within ourselves where a person doesn't have time to turn around, where, what? He doesn't have time to reflect. That is, the frequency has become such that a person is unable to reflect it. And if he cannot reflect the pressing factor, what will happen to him? Cuckoo, that means this system will crush him. The law of time speaks exactly about this, that this new informational state has exerted such pressure that we must reconsider all the rules of life on Earth. That is, the rules recall the submarine. Well, actually, I have told you what is depicted here. So, in this picture, and what does it end with? What has already been said. Therefore, what needs to be done? Ensure the stable presence of the supersystem in the environment and work towards achieving the goals set by the hierarchically higher encompassing management. From the moment the supersystem is introduced into interaction with the environment, the informational support of the elements corresponding to the adaptive part, that is, the upper part of the egg, develops in the hierarchically highest encompassing management in the process of self-management of the elements based on the fundamental part. Well, that is, the fundamental part is the foundation, and without it, there can be no development, meaning there must be some material carrier, and the adaptive part develops under the influence of the environment of the hierarchically higher encompassing management based on the fundamental part, and the hierarchically highest encompassing management has a two-level nature in relation to these little elements. On one hand, these are self-management processes, and on the other hand, overarching and hierarchical management, directly external management in relation to the elements. That is, both the supersystem as a whole and each individual element are influenced by what? Under the influence of direct management from God, and then it operates in self-management mode, just like the entire supersystem within God's allowance. Well, actually, everything here is simple. There is nothing new except that it needs to be linked with the fundamental part and the adaptive part. Well, it would be appropriate now to provide some definitions, that is the intervention from these levels of hierarchy. So, what is depicted in this picture? Again, there is a certain supersystem X. It operates in an environment, introduced into the environment, alongside interacting supersystems Y and Z. All of this is under the hierarchically highest encompassing management. Therefore, what are the definitions? That is the hierarchically highest management, without the words encompassing and highest, is the direct informational scope of the supersystem from any level of hierarchy. And the mediated management of the supersystem is when the supersystem is influenced by management either from the environment or from interacting supersystems. And this entire aggregate, and God can act in this way, that way, or however you want, means that the hierarchically highest encompassing management is the entire aggregate of informational influence on the functioning of the supersystem. That is, it is important to clearly understand that the hierarchically highest management is when management is exerted from a higher level of the supersystem hierarchy and mediated. This is when it is through the environment or neighboring supersystems. And the highest encompassing is when it is in the entire aggregate, since God can act by directly intervening informationally, but he does this in the entire aggregate, including from all levels of their hierarchy, and also through influence on the connected element. Therefore, the environment can be a fragment of another encompassing the studied supersystem. It may be a combination of supersystems. And this hierarchy of supersystems is determined by the order such as of the expanding sequence of encompassing embeddings. I understand that this may be difficult for some. I said, the order of the expanding sequence of encompassing embeddings. Well, now people will say that this is some kind of complication, but it is very simple. Here is the image of a Russian matryoshka. Imagine a matryoshka here. That is, this hierarchy is not just, I am higher, therefore I am stronger, higher still, even higher. That is, this is a conditional representation. This is the level of hierarchy. But in reality, it is like an encompassing matryoshka. If some process encompasses these processes, it is encompassing in relation to this process. And there are processes that encompass these processes, meaning they have an impact on them. Therefore, the wider the capture of all processes that occur within this level is the strongest. And this is determined by hierarchy. That is, hierarchy is not about being higher or lower in the heavens, but it is like a Russian matryoshka, where one matryoshka is nested inside another, and so on. But everyone knows about the Russian matryoshka, so let's not reflect on that. Therefore, the consideration of a supersystem is one of the stages of complete management function. That is the vidalenie of a fragment from the wholeness of the universe. And its study is one of the stages of complete management function. And this is always subjective. That is, what did you choose? Are you considering the factors that influence this? Therefore, it is always needed to remember the scheme. Here it is. There is a certain supersystem. It operates in an environment. The environment is influenced by hierarchically higher management. Hierarchically higher management over the supersystem means mediated management. And at the very top, hierarchically, the highest comprehensive management, God, who proves it. Therefore, the consideration of supersystems is one of the stages of the complete management function. It is a holistic management process in the universe, where the supersystem is distinguished by a certain set of parameters, and it also disintegrates. And one can consider management separately from the environment. Self-management of the supersystem within the supersystem and in the environment, direct, hierarchically, higher management, and mediated management. That is, this is shown in the scheme here. That is, when we considered there is a management object, a management subject, direct connection, and feedback. There are other similar little elements. All of this is part of a certain supersystem. Here it is. The super system, in relation to it, means there is another management subject, the environment, let's assume. And the environment exerts its influence as a whole on this super system, affecting each little element. The environment, as comprehensive management in relation to this, assesses the state of its management and corrects it, if it, of course, possesses intelligence, that is, mastery of this scheme. Remember, we have always considered that it is necessary to always keep in mind, when looking at any process, starting from the electron, the nucleus of the atom, and ending with comets, planets, social processes, to always mentally hold this scheme. In front of you, object, subject, direct connection, feedback, and so on. And everything related to understanding the basic principles of the sufficiently general theory of management. The next point is the influence of intelligence on the interaction between the environment and the super system. An important point as well. Let's look at the super system from the perspective of the intelligence associated with it as a single whole. That is, there is a super system. It possesses intelligence, based on which it can self-manage and can influence other fragments, meaning super systems. The environment influences, and the highest encompassing management hierarchically also influences the super system, and so on. The existence of the super system occurs under the pressure of the environment. That is, whether we want it or not. The environment exerts pressure on us, on human society, if we speak and consider it, and we have agreed precisely on this. But intelligence, it itself determines the nature of its information exchange with the super system, with its internal hierarchy, and with the intelligence associated with it. That is, intelligence determines itself. Therefore, based on this, higher level management can have a highly diverse nature in relation to the super system, and here it is illustrated from maximum to minimum. That is, the highest hierarchical management can, therefore, minimally not interfere at all in the processes and only intervene when the vector of error in the self-management of the super system goes beyond acceptable limits. But this is generally in relation to us. When we talked about prophets, that is, God seems to tell us, the super system that people live, I have endowed you with great free will. Just do not go beyond the bounds of God's permission. If humanity goes beyond the limits, he begins to suggest, as he sends prophets, that is, this is minimal intervention up to the maximum. This is minimal intervention. To the maximum, this is when the super system has reached some critical state on the verge of collapse, and there is still a goal in relation to the super system, and there is still a possibility to correct the situation. This is what is called direct divine governance. That is, direct intervention and direct management of all processes. That's it.